Okay, so this section is all about pipelines. So what is a pipeline? A pipeline is a way to collect a lot of machine learning steps into a new machine learning object. So for instance, here we have 3 pre-processing steps, and a pipeline collects all of this in a nice little package so that instead of doing all of these steps consecutively, we can do it in one go. So here is a simple coding example with a pipeline. So first of all, we have a first step here, which is, for instance, standard scalar or another transformer. And then we have another step. And finally, we have a predictor, for instance, linear or logistic regression. And this pipeline will do it so that first it will do the first step, then it will do the second step, and then it will do the predictor. And when you try to fit with this pipeline, it will do all the steps consecutively so that you don't need to call fit a lot of time. So the final pipeline here works in the same way as a predictor. So that means that this pipeline, which we call pipeline, we can use fit on it, and we can also use predict when we have this predictor here. So let's see how this actually works out with a coding example. Okay, so here we are back into Jupyter Notebook, and what we will do is to create a pipeline for the standard scalar and the logistic regression step. So first of all, we need to import the pipeline object. So we write from Scikit-Learn, and pipelines is taken from pipeline. And what we want to import is the pipeline constructor here. So now we have imported the pipeline constructor. So let's create the pipeline. And for lack of a better name, I'm going to call it pipeline. We use the pipeline function, and then we want to write all of our steps inside the pipeline here. And we write it inside a list. So let us say that the first step is going to be a scalar, which scales the data. And we have imported previously the standard scalar. So let's take that one. Next, we want another step. So let's take a predictor. And we are going to call it log_reg for logistic regression. So this is the name, and this is the actual object. And the constructor for logistic regression is logistic regression. And now I could say that this was okay, but I'm going to add another optional argument, which is the verbose equals true. This optional argument here makes it so that when I train the model or the pipeline, it will tell me how far it have gotten along, so that I know that things are actually happen and that things haven't crashed. So let's run this cell. And now we are to the next step, which is actually fitting the pipeline. So as I said previously, the pipeline works very much as just a predictor. So it has a fit method, and we can use it now on our unscaled data because we have a scalar here already installed, and we can run it. And then we get this nice little list because of the verbose argument here, which tells me that the first step took 0 seconds because it's a rather small data set. And the second step, which is called log_reg, also took 0 seconds. So now the pipeline is fitted, and let us see a bit more on this pipeline here. So this pipeline here has a lot of things saved into it. For instance, we can see all the steps of the pipeline with writing pipeline named steps. So here we see the scalar, which is the standard scalar, and log_reg, which is logistic regression. If we want to see how the standard scalar works, so for instance, if we want to see the mean of the standard scalar, we can write scalar, because this is just a dictionary now. And then we get out the standard scalar object, which we can see here. And then on this scalar object, we can write mean, for example. And here we get the same means as we did before when we talked about standard scalar. And we can also do the same thing with variance to get out the same variance as before. So the pipeline has also a predict method. And now we can just use it on the test data. And I have forgotten to write predict. So let's run this. And now it will first take this x-test and do the first step, which is scaling. Then it will do logistic regression, and this is the data it gets out. So now I can do the accuracy score with this prediction here, but also it will inherit the score function from the logistic regression. So another way to do it is to use the score function. So what I can do is to write pipeline.score x-test and then y-test. And what it will give me out is the accuracy score, because the score function of this last step here is the accuracy score. So logistic regression has an inbuilt score function, which is what this pipeline here uses as the score function. Okay, this was everything I wanted to say about pipelines. We will try to use pipelines whenever we can to kind of make the code tidy and easier to read. So see you again in the next video.